Tell your friends you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
And tonight we have another very special episode. We have the 2013 movie Under the Skin. And Nathan, what's your history of Under the Skin?
I watched this. One of the first things I watched when I got Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So I didn't see this in the movies. I watched it on Amazon Prime and whenever it came out, 2013, 2014. And then again recently.
Was it just in the queue or did something draw you to it? Did you hear about it before?
No, I'd heard about it.
Okay.
I wanted to see it because I heard it's like, oh, this is a weird movie. You know, it's kind of had some unusual pacing and story elements. And they were talking about how a lot of the filming was like, guerrilla filming.
Yeah.
Like the people didn't know they were in a movie and they were interacting with Scarlett Johansson as if they were, helping a woman or acting weird or, sexy. Or most of the people that were filmed that weren't actors were actually like, oh, no, you go down. But they were talking with the indecipherably thick accents.
Yeah, they talk about
Yeah, they just had that whole mouthful of marble Scottish accent. And they're not trying to act or anything, so they're just like cutting loose. And it's like, whoa, that's a really wild accent. Especially when guys are either drunk or just like in a hurry.
Yeah, I all I heard about was that, it was like, oh, that's the Scarlett Johansson, she's an alien who seduces men movie, and that's all I know about it. And really, that's the extent of the plot.
Yeah, that is actually that says it all.
Because this is beyond or not even like tangential to a full Verhoeven Effect movie. This is a full fill in the blank movie.
Yeah, you can add whatever you want to. There's a nice canvas here.
Oh yeah, it looks cool. There's great sound design and stuff like that. And you can tell it was a very low budget movie. But yeah, I mean, because I did read the book before like watching this, and so it's a very interesting adaptation because it's like basically almost a full 180 because like the book is like 90% inner monologue. You even hear the inner monologue of the men that she picks up.
Yeah.
And so that's where you kind of decide like, oh, this is like going to be sad what happens to them. Or when you hear their monologues, like, okay, it doesn't matter. It's like this guy can die. So
yeah, they're just awful people.
But and a lot of times in adaptations, like a novel to movie, like you have to just extract, get rid of the inner monologue or have voiceover, which kind of always adds a clumsiness to a movie. So there's like, you always have to find ways to kind of work around that. But this movie just like, no, let's just like exercise any explanation and monologue and stuff like that. Because like you could watch this movie and not come to the conclusion that like that it's aliens. Like it could just be like Cenobites or whatever. There's nothing. There's not, like only like the poster where it's like her face, like kind of faded into the background with stars. It's like, okay, well she's an alien, and there's like some of the promotional material kind of shares stuff with the David Bowie movie, The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
But yeah, like you could come away with this movie with like a completely different interpretation. Because some people are talking about like some Scottish mythology about like basically kind of like a Scottish vampire that they're associating with as well.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like basically a sea succubus kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's an Irish myth too. Yeah.
Oh, is that like their version of the banshee or something like that?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. There's all kinds of like horrible stories from the islands of sadness known as the British Isles. So there's like everything here is to eat you, but mainly the people.
Yeah, and here like she doesn't have a name, although like if you look at some trivia, they call it like Internet Movie Database lists her as the female.
Yeah.
And then I think I read in the wiki, it says /Laura. So I don't know where they picked that up. If she said her name was Laura or something at some point, I'm not sure where that gets picked up. In the book, her name is Isserly, but the lady who reads it, who might be Scottish, I don't know, or just British, like has kind of does it in an accent where it sounds like her name's Italy
Okay.
because she's like Italy. It's like, so I spent like half the book thinking her name was Italy until I saw it in like print. It's like, oh, it's Isterly. Okay. um. So yeah, but yeah, even then, it's like it's like you have to go to Internet Movie Database, and the names for everyone is just so you know, it's like you forgot their name. It's like the dead woman. It's like, and then
Yeah.
that's what they named them. That's how they're listed in the. Well, it's probably they just probably grabbed. I didn't look up. I probably should have looked up the credits, but I'm guessing that's how they're listed in the credits, and that's how Internet Movie Database had filled in the blanks there. So, um,
Yeah, there's so many different ways that people talk. Because I think in the English language, there's like 40 different unique accents in the whole in that whole contiguous area. So
yeah.
it gets really, yeah. Sometimes when, especially a lot of that Scottish stuff, you're like, huh? And there was a joke in like, remember Train Spotting
Yeah.
when they would just go full Scottish on people, and everyone, even people from other
Uh,
parts of the country, would be
I
like,
th-
what?
I think like the full view like look at that stuff is have you ever seen Scottish Twitter?
No.
Like it's hilarious. It's them like phonetically spelling out how a Scottish person would say something. You
Okay,
have to sit there and read it, decipher what the fuck are they talking
I'm gonna have to check that out.
about. It's kind of like have you ever seen Black people Twitter? It's basically like that, but for Scottish. Except Black people Twitter is just kind of like a unique experience to Black people in America, whereas Scottish Twitter is them phonetically spelling out how wild they say things. So, like they're
Yeah,
saying,
the way it's been explained to me is the further you get away from London, the more dense and indecipherable it comes. It
yeah,
becomes the further north you go, the weirder it gets. Because wasn't that the joke with the guy? What was that movie where Brad Pitt played the boxer?
oh yeah, and
You just couldn't. He was
Snatch,
spoken a slur. Yeah, and it
yeah,
was like, oh, okay, this is they're making a joke.
yeah, he played a pikey,
Yeah,
which is probably racist to say. I don't know.
if you're over there, I guess it is.
I mean, they're white, so I can say that. um, but yeah, yeah, yeah. This movie was like a box office bomb. Like, it has like very wild reception. Like some people say it's like a masterpiece, and other people are like, that was the most boring movie I ever saw. That's more like kind of like the average person watching the movie rather than like a critic. Because to a critic, this would probably be a breath of fresh air. It's like, oh wow, they didn't treat me like an idiot. Like they gave me nothing, and I loved it. Well, I
Yeah,
mean, it's a visual feast, but
when I first started, oh, what was it? When I first started watching um this movie, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, this is the intro from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like when the movie started,
yeah,
it just had there's this weird stuff going on. There's like two orbs coming together, like there's eyeballs being formed, people are practicing words in the English language. It's like immediately like, well, this is going to be cool, but I knew what I was getting into.
yeah,
Like this is going to be aliens versus predator.
yeah.
uh, so yeah, that's you could this takes a lot of cues from Kubrick in this movie. I think it's like we're going to tell a story very slowly, and we're going to use music and sound as like it just as important as anything going on in the movie is the music and the
Well, yeah,
sound.
because it just lays down discordance throughout the entire
Yeah.
movie, where it's like if you find any kind of like anything kind of like, oh, this seems normal, it reminds you like it is. So,
No, yeah, there's nothing normal going on here.
even though in most scenes like almost nothing happens, but it's like this underlining like, well, what are they thinking about? What could be happening?
Yeah. And the way it's filmed and shot too is very well. It's just like they're trying to make you see life as through an alien. If you were an alien,
Yeah,
it's like now this we're only going to show you how she interacts with people and her baseline of behavior. And one of the things about not being able to understand almost anyone that speaks is like, oh, you start to like, you identify with her. It's like, yeah, this is a strange land she's in. She's asking for directions. And
And she kind of has a British accent, not necessarily a Scottish one.
yeah, there's only two people in the movie that don't have British or don't have Scottish accents, though. And some of this is like they say there's like a subtle genius to the director. He did that on purpose to make the audience feel alienated. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is,
Yeah,
it's
that
cool.
now you're getting the Verhoeven effect with that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
oh, what do you think the director said he's doing? But I mean, even the director said outright, no, she's an alien. So he's kind of like left. He hasn't just left it purely to. He hasn't David Lynch this and left it purely to everyone's imagination. It's like, no, that's what's going on. So, but beyond that, the details are up to you. So. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's weird because it didn't do well at the box office, but it seems to be kind of everybody knows it. And even though it's like a movie where it's like Scarlett Johansson naked a bunch in it, it doesn't seem to like get a rise from that necessarily. Would you figure
Oh,
that?
that's what triggers the killing in the movies. When she's naked, it's like, well, there's bad stuff going on. So it de-eroticizes it to the audience because it's like, oh, when them clothes come off, someone's getting fed into a blender or whatever, whatever's going on.
It's similar to like the Night Porter. Like, whenever someone's naked, something bad is happening with Nazis and Jewish people. So you ever see? I've made you watch the Night Porter, right?
Yes,
Okay. So yeah, this came out like it's 2013 film festival. I think it eventually came out in 2014, but like when I was looking on Wikipedia and stuff like that, it said it came out 2013. So I guess it is. But sometime I looked at 2013. Not a lot of good movies in 2013. So picked this one. So
this one I remember hearing a lot of things I listened to about movies and entertainment talked very positively about this movie a lot.
Yeah. I mean, this definitely seems like a movie, a Palme d'Or movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a movie to drink while watching.
Director's Jonathan Glazer, who, just a British guy, who's probably his most famous thing is he did the Virtual Insanity music video with Jamiroquai.
Okay.
So yeah, he's done a lot of music video stuff. He did like Sexy Beast. He did that one movie where it's like following the families of like the German officers at Auschwitz or whatever.
I just watched this movie very recently. It's called The Zone of Interest.
Yeah.
That's another soundscape movie. Because the families, I mean, they're just kind of like, what's weird is the families, like their concerns are like, it's a very, very banal family that kind of has like normal, like, oh, well, you got to make sure, kiss up to the boss and do this and do that. And I'd like the flowers over here. And meanwhile, in the background, you hear a concentration camp operating.
Yeah.
There's mechanical sounds, industrial sounds, people yelling in German, shooting. And the family's just sitting there like having a meal. And it's like, so how was work today? Weird about it is it's very, again, a very unsettling soundscape.
Yeah.
Which was the main feature of that movie.
So yeah, this guy makes good movies. I don't really feel like up to watching any of his movies, but
yeah,
they're good.
Sexy Beast was pretty conventional.
Yeah.
It almost reminded me of like a Guy Ritchie movie, but with maybe a little more brains to it. Because some of that Guy Ritchie stuff is like, it's over the top, violence and fun.
Yeah.
Whereas Sexy Beast kind of started off that way, but then became that. Birth, to be honest with you, I watched it once and it didn't really resonate with me. But Under the Skin and Zone of Interest are definitely like cool movies.
Yeah.
But and this is like, that was the next movie he did after Under the Skin 10 years later.
Yeah.
So he takes his time with it.
Well, he's also a big commercial and music video guy. So
yeah,
he's kind of has that track of like, actually it's more of a David Lynch track rather than like your Michael Bay track, because Michael Bay, as soon as he started directing movies, that's all he did. He didn't like really. I don't think he really went back to commercials. Um,
Okay.
the I can't think of their names. The Scott brothers, they were did a lot of commercials, and then like they got like shot a lot of commercials very quickly, and then once they got into films, that's all they did. So we're actually like David Lynch would like in between projects would shoot commercials to make money, and they were always the weirdest obscure commercials, and it's like, wow, you got somebody to give you money for that. um um Yeah, cinematographer is Daniel Landon, who basically kind of works mostly alongside Jonathan Glazer. I think the
Yeah, he has
one,
a lot of music videos and advertising in his credits too.
yeah, which I think the only thing that seems separated from that I recognize, and I've only seen the trailer for it, but it's a movie called 44-Inch Chest.
Okay, not familiar with that one.
um, I just remember it's an interesting name for a movie. It's just like some British drama or whatever. So,
Okay.
this is written by Walter Campbell and Jonathan Glazer together. They are Walter Campbell's like a advertising guru, so this is kind of like his only like film credit, and it's like almost criminal saying that this movie is written.
Yeah.
um,
Posted noted by.
you could do a silent movie and it's written by and like you describe all the action, set all the scenes and stuff like that. But being that they play up how much of this movie is just like off the cuff and filmed in secret, it's like, well, you can't attribute any of that to you. That's your process. That's not you writing the movie. But the framework's there. So, written by a novels based on novel written by like Michelle Faber or Michael Faber. I think he's like Dutch or something like that. So I'm not sure you're supposed to say that.
Mikkel, I have no idea.
But probably. Cast is Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy McWilliams, which I think he was just a motorcycle expert, and that's the other character who never talks in the movie.
Yeah.
Because they needed a guy to drive on rainy streets, so they needed a motocross expert. So, well, I guess
Yeah.
not motocross.
Watching that guy drive that motorcycle in that scene, I was like, whoa, this guy must be some kind of expert because that's insane. Like you don't do that unless you know what you're doing. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I know. Like I know people like they'll be like, they drive their motorcycle to work, and if it rains, they'd be like, oh, I got to figure out a way home because I'm not driving in that stuff. And it wasn't even like necessarily like that bad of a rain, but like,
No, it's very scary to ride in the rain. I've ridden in the rain before, and I did not like it
was it
because
just
you
get
got
slippery or what's going on? Or is it just a lot of
here's the difference.
dust and the getting your eye or spray getting in your eyes?
In a car, you have four wheels, and you have a contact patch on each wheel about that big. That's how much is in contact with the ground at any time. And any kind of liquid or anything that interferes with that on one or two wheels, your car is going to get wobbly. The motorcycle, you've got two wheels. Now you have a slightly bigger contact patch because the tires are bigger and they're usually meatier tires. But if you lose even one of those two tires, it's coming right out from under you. So it's like, yeah, any friction on the road. I mean, I know people I used to like to ride in the fall. It was literally the worst time to ride because the leaves fall on the asphalt, the rain falls on the leaves, then the leaves fall again. Okay, the friction between the leaves, the asphalt, and the water, it's like ice.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh, I'm having a country ride. The next thing you know, you're just laying it down because you went around the curve. So yeah, anything riding in the rain like that sucks, especially when he was sliding it around corners and stuff. Like that's skill beyond anything I understand.
Yeah, all of driving is friction based.
Yes.
You need friction to push the vehicle, you need friction to stop the vehicle. Everything you do is how you apply the friction in the vehicle. So if you lose that, it's not a vehicle anymore. So,
the other cool thing though was the bike they picked was a Yamaha. It was one of those. They had one of those cool engines. It was called the Yamaha YZF. I don't know if it's R1 or just 1R or 1.
Yeah.
That was the one that had the offset crankshaft.
Oh, okay.
So instead, you know how you have the crankshaft and you got the piston, and then the crankshaft turns, and well, you know how the crankshaft has all the weight on one side of it. So as the piston turns, the weight swings. Well, that creates a that creates its own kind of power outside of the horsepower from the detonation of the fuel. I think it's called mass or something like reciprocal horsepower or something.
Okay.
That's just the weight of the crankshaft swinging around also creates power. Well, the driver cannot control that power. In a car, it's not so important because you have less things working on you torsionally. In a car, you can distribute it through a drivetrain. In a motorcycle that's in line, when you really start revving those RPMs, some of those Japanese motorcycles can do 11,000 RPMs. Okay, if all that weight's swinging down and up, down and up, down and up, well, you're actually creating horsepower you can't use or control. So that style of motor, they put one weight here, and the next weight was a 4-cylinder, then one here, and then one here. So at every swing, because the weight of the crankshaft was offset, it canceled it out.
Huh.
So it was pure power. But that engine makes a wicked screaming sound. It sounds like it's about to detonate, but it's actually much smoother than a traditional engine.
Huh.
I knew a guy that had one of those, and he explained that to me. I don't know if they still make those. They're cool as hell, but I know you don't want them to break when they get expensive.
And the other name is Lindsay Taylor McKay, which I think she's the dead woman. Or no, not. Well, I don't think she's actually dead, but actually, I think the other guy that's known as Adam Pearson, he's the guy with the disfigured face because he's like in another movie that came out recently, so he's been in other stuff. So
yeah, we'll get. We can talk about it now when we get to it. I'll just talk about it now. When I first saw this guy in the movie, I thought that's a weird makeup choice. It's like they did like an Elephant Man thing. I wonder why they did that. And then you find out that guy actually looks like that. I was like, oh, wow. Okay. I thought it was like this was yet another weird choice for a weird movie. And it's like, oh, there's people that look like that. I was like, oh my God, really? Because I just thought it was like, oh, why did they put the Elephant Man in here?
Yeah.
And then I found out later, it's like, nope, that's how he looks. That's an actual condition. I'm like, oh my God, okay. Because that looks like pure like movie makeup. Like they're just trying to make someone look as terrifying as possible so that you'll feel sympathy for him. This guy doesn't deserve this on top of everything. And it's like, nope, that's real. I was like, oh, that's almost worse.
Other than that, running around naked, it's like, oh, there's like none of that's on the rest of his body.
Oh, it's just his face. Thing you see all the time. It's weird. And he's the only other person you can understand in this movie that talks is him and her.
Yeah.
Because he's English, not Scottish, so you can pretty much understand him. Which is weird because he looks like I'm never going to be able to understand this guy by looking at him. He speaks quite clearly. It's like, oh, another jarring thing.
But it's like the most pivotal part of the movie too. So it's like,
yeah.
So that's everybody. So let's just get in the movie. We'll see how quick this goes, being it's a movie without dialogue. I think I actually wrote a lot of notes, but we'll see what happens.
Well, that's why I'm glad you were able to read some of the book.
Yeah.
Because you can provide some fill, even though I've heard it's been explained to me like the book and the movie don't have much in common. So
I mean, it's the same plot. It's just that like the movie gives you nothing and the book gives you exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Which when you compare to this movie, it's like if you want to directly translate, it's like, okay, that's what's going on, but there's still enough like wiggle room in the movie that they're not explicitly telling you anything that you're like, oh, okay, well, I don't know. It could be that, it could be not be that. And there's some things where it's like, where things happen differently, but they're kind of the same result. And so, like, if you read the book, it would probably have more meaning than how it exists in the movie.
Okay.
Really, the big thing that like never comes across, and where there's the reveal of like the alien or whatever in the book, it's like the aliens are kind of like fox people with like long necks and like fur, and they basically like, you know, she talks about like the back pain stuff she has and stuff like that, and then it's like slowly revealed through the book when you realize what's happening is that like Oh, well, she was like just cut to pieces and made to look like a human.
Oh,
So she's talking about like how like she's missing like 3 feet of spine and stuff like that and all these other things. It's like, oh wow, that's horrific. And she's not really well. Like the thing they talk about the most, like gets the most mention in the book, is that they gave her comically huge boobs.
okay.
Um, but like she has no feeling in them. They're just like a thing attached on there. There's no nervous system attaching to it. So it's just like, well, it's just a thing. And so like the men are attracted to that, but then like once you get closer, it's like she just has scars all over her body from the surgery they gave her. So,
Oh, okay.
and she doesn't have to seduce the men; she just gets them in and kind of like weirdly interviews them to make sure that nobody's gonna miss them if they disappear. And then once she's able to determine that, she just hits a button and it like hits them with like some ejection and knocks them out. And she drives them to a farm. And they take the bodies away.
Oh, okay.
Where here it's more of like she lures them into a thing and promises sex, where that's never like really a thing in the book. So, but yeah, like once you get in like the full like details of like with the terrible things that she had to do this job, and it's like and what the job is like, well that's crazy and wasteful. Then you feel sorry for her. Whereas like here, you don't really feel sorry for her like almost at all. She just seems very cold and evil. So, um, then what was the other? Um, oh, then like the kind of great misdirect in the book is when they start talking about humans and vaudesills. And you're like, oh, the vaudesills, that must be with the aliens. And like, no, they refer to themselves as humans, and they call humans vaudesills.
Okay.
And like, you're like, wait, what's going on? And then that just becomes a great confusion. And like, oh, that's like it's a great way to like look at it from like if you're an alien race that thinks you're superior, and then like you are a human, but in the book from the perspective like, well, they also think they're humans, and that's how they would treat other intelligent beings. It's like, okay, it's kind of actually like a like a really good misdirect and like confusing you in the book, and then realizing like what that actually means. So, um, but you don't get any of that here. So,
Yeah.
the most you get is like at some point, like in the book, there is kind of this realization that she has to like there's no going back. It's not like they're gonna like give her surgery to make her whole again. She's just now a human, like, but not. And then so you get some of that here in this movie where it's like she kind of realizes that she's a human being, and then realizes, well, I guess that's not gonna work out. We get Act One. It's just silent black and white credits for like a pretty long time. And then we get discordant music fades in, um, which is this is almost like like you're saying 2001, but it's almost like that. Oh, what's that one music that they used in the like the atomic bomb thing? That's like Hiroshima and the whatever.
Oh, the Threnody for the victims of
Yeah,
Hiroshima.
yeah. It's kind of like that going on. Then we get a white dot on screen. It kind of grows, and then there's like kind of like rings of light. We hear a really weird, like almost like behind a wall kind of voice is heard. It actually sounds a lot like if you've ever played the game um, Control. There's like this black pyramid that talks to you.
Okay.
Then that's what it kind of sounds like. That came out after this, so maybe they just took it from that. So, I mean, those other things that kind of did this. Um, and then we have like an orb completes another orb, and there's like a white orb and a black orb, and it's basically, and then eyeballs revealed. So it's up to you to guess, like, oh, is this them constructing an eyeball? And you have no idea. So it's up to you
Yeah.
what this means. And then we get the titles Under the Skin. We cut to rushing rapids. We see a motorcycle, and then we cut to a motorcycle drives on a road in a valley at dusk. We get a close up as the bike rides through the night. It kind of looks like it's like a star field. There's all the reflections on the rain soaked like shield, or what do you call that on the front of a motorcycle? So yeah, I guess that's a windshield. Yeah.
Yeah. Windscreen.
Yeah. The bike parks alongside the road. The guy, yeah, like in the credits, he's listed as the bad guy. So he walks down a hill into the darkness, then he comes out carrying a woman on his shoulder, which you're like, how does he know she's there? What's going on? It's like, don't worry, they're not going to explain that. And then he gets ready to throw her in a van. And then we cut to I wrote the dead lady is being undressed by the female, which is Scarlett Johansson, which here she's just standing naked and undressing her and taking her clothes in just this white nondescript room, like very. I don't know, a lot of things do this, but like I remember this mostly from like THX 1138.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, she puts on the lady's clothes, but then you see tears come out of the woman's eyes, suggesting she's not dead. She's just like drugged or something. So
Well, I always thought she was like the previous alien that I was harvesting.
oh, okay, yeah, I guess.
Broke down in some way.
Okay, yeah,
Because because I didn't read the book, so my take on these two people or these people is there's some kind of machine.
yeah. That make a lot. I heard people talk about that, so that's definitely a read on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was just the previous model that finally broke down for just it's like the fatal flaw in Code 46. It's like, well, empathy will overwhelm you eventually.
Okay.
That's what I get out of it.
Okay, I guess that makes some kind of sense because like it's the only time they like take a woman in.
Yeah.
Like it's always going after men. It's like I didn't know like do the guys seduce women, but maybe that's not what they're concerned about. So. Well, and they didn't seduce her; they just like, drug her out of a ditch somewhere. So.
Yeah.
And then the female finds an ant and looks at it, which again I don't know if like she finds commonality with the ant, maybe because it's all black, which we'll find out that's kind of what they look like.
Or that's the mentality of the culture she comes from.
Yeah.
Just like there's different ants with different roles and stuff. I'm just totally making shit up, so I don't know.
It's there for you to do that. So, again, it's like it's not explaining it to you. So, because again, like even though like they say it's aliens, like again you say it like there is like a very machine-like quality to them, and so we don't get in depth enough to like really know like if that's true or not, because or maybe they're a race that transferred into something that's more machine-like over time or whatever. So,
or they're just limited by the same rules we are in space time.
Yeah.
Because if we ever explore like other planets, it's going to be with machines.
Yeah.
Because you can't run a human form up to massive speeds and have it live. You can't create a bubble for it to live in space for years because that just doesn't exist. But you can create a machine.
Yeah.
Send it, and it just depending on how advanced your civilization is, you can create like a Terminator type machine.
Have you? You still have Netflix, right?
Yes.
Have you seen the new Terminator anime?
Yeah, I watched a couple of those.
It's okay. I wish it was better.
Yeah, I do too. I was like, looks cool, but it's like, oh, this isn't really that good.
Well, that's the thing is like there's so many other Japanese anime that took influence from Terminator and made really cool things out of it, and then they just get the Terminator license. They kind of make something that's like okay and not really pushing the genre forward or anything like that.
They just retell the story, except what if like the Sarah Connor character, like her dad was the guy who created these things, and then she fights them in the future. It's like, we've done this already. It's why are we doing it?
They have another twist on it, but it's not necessarily.
You can tell how far I got before I was
yeah, the guy who's trying to fight off the future and it seems to have like a premonition of what's happening. Well, it turns out he's from the future, so
okay.
I think the only extra thing you don't get is the weird lady house that's taking care of the house and the kids, who kind of has like, you're like, what's going on with her? Because she seems to like look at a knife and seem to be like both know it and be scared of it. Turns out it's a robot he created. So
okay,
it was like his first attempt at AI. Because really, that's what the whole thing is about. Is it's him trying to get an AI to fight Skynet. But then he has to like try to convince it to fight for humanity, and then at first that doesn't work out. So and all she does is stop Japan from getting hit with nuclear weapons, which I guess that's a turn.
That's a form of victory.
But then she starts enslaving humanity with like service robots. But yeah, it's almost good, but let's see. Oh yeah, then we cut to so yeah, she looks at the then we cut to an outside shot of a building with kind of some weird disturbance and UFO stuff above it. So that's probably like the closest you get to like maybe this is a UFO stuff. So like maybe that's your clue to alien stuff going on necessarily. So uh, kind of, and then the rest is up to you because it's not. it's it's more because the rest of it isn't really mechanical. So it's hard to necessarily get to the point of like, oh, it's aliens or whatever. So, a female goes downstairs. She hops in the van. The motorcycle guy drives off. The female drives off in the van. She goes to a mall. Oh yeah, they're like in Scotland for this movie, so that's where the book takes place. That's where this takes place. Um, and again, like I'm not sure how much of it, but the producers want you to think that they shot like 90% of this movie like with hidden cameras, but I have no idea. That's just, um, maybe it's full on guerrilla filmmaking, like no permits, just getting cameras and bags and going around. But yeah, I have no idea. So,
The here's the stuff it's a because this is the one thing I know about. It's a 2006 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van,
okay.
which here we call those Dodge Sprinter vans.
Oh,
They
is
were
that the same thing?
it pretty much. It's
Oh,
just
okay.
that's what Mercedes owned Chrysler, I think. And if you pay attention, the interior of the van where she's driving it, they basically put two interiors in it because it looks like it has two glove compartments, two spin. If you look at the dash from where she's sitting, and the reason they did that is so they could hide all the extra camera equipment. So she's talking to people. That's how they filmed it, was from inside the van, which is why a lot of things too are shot at a really weird up angle.
Yeah.
But yeah, they basically put two dashboards in the van and they gave it like multiple levels so they could hide cameras in the nooks and crannies.
Yeah, all the van stuff seems like that's just guerrilla filmmaking. But I'm not.
Yeah.
But they want to make you think like everything was.
No.
um.
They had to put like an automatic transmission in it to make it easier to drive and have all the cameras run through it because you couldn't have Scarlett Johansson like doing a stick shift trying to film stuff. And they also had to pull a generator behind it,
Okay.
which gave away like, why is this van got like this, just a pull start generator, because the van's systems couldn't supply power to all the equipment that was running.
I always like
So,
when she had to park the car onto her belt and then roll down the passenger window. Like there's no
yeah,
power windows.
nope, it's just a delivery vehicle. They don't do that.
um. So she goes around looking at stuff in the mall. She gets some clothes, and then she cut to her in the van. She's putting on lipstick. Um, but apparently she knows like, oh, that's what guys like or whatever. So again, that's up to you how much like observation is going on or the intention.
Well, this is like a good example of how good an actress Scarlett Johansson is and how good the director is. Because if you notice, she does a lot of things, like she puts lipstick on, she smiles, and she tries to look a certain way, and then she just goes to a flat affect
Yeah.
when no one's talking to her, anyone's around. She does that constantly.
Yeah.
Because when she's not trying to entice somebody or pretend to be something, she just sits there like an autistic person, just like staring off into the middle
Yeah.
distance. It's like it is kind of jarring.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do a good job of catching those moments.
Yeah, because it comes off as like she's being rude, but it's like, well, now she's not going to kill that guy because she knows somebody will miss him. It's like, yeah, she goes around, observes men on the street, and then she comes across a crowd of soccer fans, which it's hard for her to pull through. She pulls over and asks the guy for directions. Here was like, she has kind of a British accent or whatever's going on. In the book, it's more like it's kind of like that's why I thought her name was Italy, because I thought she was like kind of going for like she's like an Italian in Scotland, and so that would explain why she has a weird accent. That's kind of weird, but nah, her name was Isserly. So, um, So yeah, she tries to pick him up, but like leaves him when he says he's waiting for somebody. So that's when she determines that like, okay, he'll be missed. So like moving on. So there's also a weird thing in the book, and I guess it doesn't get brought up here either. For like, I don't know exactly what the time frame in the book is, because it seems like a time before cell phones, but
Okay.
it's written in 2000, so that's definitely a time where like vagrants and people hitchhiking wouldn't have cell phones, whereas like now your vagrants and your hitchhikers have cell
They
phones.
probably have better cell phones than you do. It's a weird time.
But never in this movie does anyone have a cell phone or call for help or anything like that.
No.
So.
Yeah, if you're picking up random people off the streets, I mean, I've seen a few documentaries about Scotland and about life there, and it's kind of dark.
Oh yeah,
So you're almost universally dealing with either lost people, alcoholics, or vagrants. I'm not saying everyone in Scotland is, but people she's picking up on the street
yeah,
or meet that would go with her for sex or whatever. Because I'll tell you one thing I would never do, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a good guy. If some beautiful woman was like trying to, like, hey, let's get in the van and go somewhere, I'm thinking, oh, I'm getting my kidneys harvested. Or
yeah,
it's like, women like that are not interested in guys like me.
yeah.
So something is going on here. But these people seem kind of like on the edge of something,
Yeah,
or they just,
they're. Well, I mean, you don't know who they are in reality, but what's like presented in the book is almost like, oh, I've lucked out.
yeah,
Life has been hard to me, and like finally a turn. It's like
yeah,
here's this pretty lady with giant boobs.
this is going to work out. Wrong.
Because I'm not sure if that's why they. I mean, Scarlett Johansson does have really big boobs. I'm not sure if that's why they exclusively like casted her. So
Oh, there's some people that'll just, I mean, their pecker's like a compass that just points in one direction. I mean, there's guys like
well,
that.
well, when you look at like who else was like meant to be cast, it's like, oh yeah, it's just Hollywood's women with big boobs.
Yeah.
Although I think Scarlett Johansson might have the biggest boobs for a vegan that I know of.
Does she have them? I never really paid attention.
Yeah.
I guess. Let me get some images.
Scarjo up here.
Because I never thought of her as like, well, I think of her from like the Road Warrior and stuff. So,
She was in the Road Warrior?
or no, not Scarlett Johansson. Who was in Fury Road?
Oh, Charlize Theron.
Yeah, no, it's not her. But no, Scarlett Johansson plays the assassin in the Avengers
Yeah,
movies,
she's
right?
Black Widow, yeah.
Yeah, that's all I know her from. Oh yeah, okay, I guess you're right. Yep, she certainly does. I never thought of it, but yeah, they're big. Okay, cool. I learned something today. Hey, honey, guess what I found out?
um, well, I only point that out because it is the boobs in the book are of some contention that it's mentioned almost in every chapter. So
With their comical
yes.
breasts. Yeah, okay. Comedy breasts. I get it.
Yeah, like she basically like in the book it's mentioned that like the guy they sent there first to is kind of like to like get a lay of the land, and he saw like a magazine. And so if this is late 90s, like, yeah, it's going to be some lady with silicone breasts on a cover of something. And so that's what they gave her. So it's just comically large silicone breasts.
Oh, okay.
Just globes on her body. um, so yeah, she's able to, yeah, they kind of like cut to like her trying to do this to some other guy. She finds some guy to give her direction, and she finds out that he lives alone. And she's even like asking weird questions like, "You like living alone?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's great." So, then then they just kind of cut away to like a different moment, and he's gone. So it's like, well, I guess he's dead. So there's also like these weird like red lights that are reflecting on this black panel on the back of the van, and you're like, is that a monster at first? Like, what's going on here? And it's like, oh, it's just lights. So, although those two red lights like show up in multiple places in the movie if you look for it.
Yeah, I did see those a lot, but I couldn't like put them together with anything. It's like, does this mean something? Or
yeah, I think it's just reflecting like street lights, but like just in a specific way that like I picked up on, like almost like geometrically, or I don't know if that's a word I use. Like, here's red lights that are this far apart. So, um, I don't know. It almost seems like more like the red light they put on a camera, like when you're filming, so everyone knows like which camera to look at and stuff like that. But I think it was just incidental here. So, let's see here. Then we cut to like she's got another guy. She's trying to compliment him, and then you see her like cut to like she takes him to like some doorway that she opens up, which I don't know like are these all different houses and stuff that they go to, or is this like the same house that they go to every time?
I always thought it was the same house.
Okay. Like yeah, it seems like over time it's revealed like more what the inside is, but here it's like basically walk into a dark room or a dark doorway, and then you just cut to a dark room on the inside. um, so yeah, she like walks away from him, leads him away, or leads him, and she's like undressing as she walks, and so like he does too, and then um, he starts sinking into darkness, which is just a really cool effect. So, which I guess they just had like a pool with some plank on it, and they just lowered the plank when the guy started walking on it, and then some CGI stuff. But like it looks like they're like falling into black ooze or whatever. But you know it's not oil because there's not like residue sloshing up on them or whatever. But it's very weird looking, definitely. But yeah, they never second guess themselves. Like, yeah, just keep sinking in here, and then like eventually they'll get to have sex, and then they disappear, and then she just like walks back, picks up her clothes, and leaves. And so that's Act One. Like maybe 3 sentences of dialogue and no explanation. um, yeah, this might be a movie completely without exposition, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The only time there is nothing. 'Cause even when the people talk, they're just talking,
like
just having conversations about inane, banal things.
Like the only exposition that might exist in the movie is when the guy goes like, "Hey, the bus is coming." That's like the only exposition in the movie.
Yeah, that's it.
It's like, well, we know a bus is coming. All right. Well, she walks that guy in the water, presumably to his death or whatever. That's the end of Act One. We got Act Two. She's back out cruising around. She's like long and motionless driving, like you said, like whenever she's not in the mode to pick up the guy, or even when she like learns that like somebody will miss them, she'll just like turn, like lose all emotions in her face and just keep on driving.
Yeah.
Which yeah, the guys they like pull up to and did this stuff, they'd like let it go on a while, and then eventually they'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's a film crew. Can you sign this waiver?"
Yeah, that's how I understood it.
Which I don't know if that means like they got compensation, because whenever it says like someone signs a waiver, like it never. I don't think that ever means like, and here's a boatload of money. It's just like
No.
they're just like, cool, I'll be in a movie.
I've signed 3 waivers in 25 years with the company I work for. Never made it into the commercials, building, but I never got any money. Hey, can we use you in this? The one guy was being a dick once, and I said, no, you can't. It's like, what? It's like, no. So then they had to like get somebody else to drive by. Good. I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
I remember like Matt, like he'd have to do like camera setups for news things, and like people's distortion of reality, not knowing how this stuff works. They think if like if somebody's filming them, they like need restitution for that. Like they need to be compensated because they're gonna be on TV. It's like that's not how this works, dude.
Nope, you have to be in a union for that, and it has to be done for like profit, like as a repeated viewings or whatever. I forget. There's different rules about it.
Yeah,
but yeah, you can essentially film in public anywhere, and
and then you just blur people's faces out.
Yeah.
Like whenever like someone does a news report about fat people, it's always like neck down fat people waddling around.
Look at these fatties, and it's just their faces are blurred out. And then they wave sometimes. Hi.
The next thing we cut to, she's at a beach watching as the waves come in. But then she like waits for this guy to come out in from the water, which is like super weird afterwards, trying to think about like anything, the logic to any of this scene. Like, why was she waiting on this guy? Because like in the book, the scene makes sense for about half a second till the guy walks up and you realize that she doesn't know who he is. In the book, there's a lot of consternation about like jealousy about being to go to look at the sea, because on their planet most people live underground and only rich people live above, but you can't go outside, like it's too deadly outside.
Okay.
And so like looking at the sea is like this almost like a dream, and that's like kind of like where she's like almost more connecting with humanity than she is being an alien, because like earth is like beautiful by comparison. um I don't know if you're supposed to get that, if you read the book, if you're supposed to get that out of the scene. I was like looking at it that way immediately, but then she like talks to this guy and you're like, oh, they don't know each other. She finds out he's from the Czech Republic and she's like, oh, good, then I can kill this guy because he has no ties here. Um, then there's like, you see this dog like this like couple are yelling at this dog. This lady like is as ran into the waves, and it's just like a rocky shore, so nothing seems good here.
Yeah.
It's not like a sandy beach, it's just rocks. And so like the lady goes for the dog, and then her husband goes for the lady, and then the surfer goes and saves the guy, who then like he immediately collapses saving the guy, and the guy just runs back in to go after the dog and his wife. It's like, and then
And we assume they die. We
yeah.
just assume like all the wife, the husband, and the dog are all dead.
Yeah, I mean, we get a news report later. It confirms that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
The one that wants the kid.
Well, there is exposition. Yes.
What's that?
There is exposition.
Yeah.
Over the radio.
Oh yeah, I guess yeah. Yeah, the one time for exposition. Although you don't know what happens to the kid, but you just assume he drowned or something. So
Yeah, the baby that's just crying.
yeah,
Yeah.
And everyone's ignoring him.
Everyone is. Nobody cares.
But yeah, as the swimmer like is like kind of like tired on the shore of the rock, she just grabs a rock and busts him in the head, and then like has to like really struggle over dragging his body. Like it must have took her an hour to get his body to the car. And like they at one point they go past the baby who's just crying and completely ignores the baby. It's like oh, this is weird and sad.
Well, it just shows that she has no. These are just aliens. He's just an alien.
Yeah.
She has no regard for anything. She's like, the mission was the man. I'm bringing him in one way or another. It's like we don't eat babies, so just leave it here to die. Because she doesn't understand. Like there's a civilization and there's rules.
Or crying might mean nothing to her. Like that's not something.
Yeah. Well. No. Yeah. That
it's
could
like it's
be
just
too.
a noise. It's like it doesn't strike anything in her. Like there's nothing in her like consciousness that's like struck by like like oh, the baby's in danger. Like it just doesn't register at all. It's just a sound like to ignore.
It's just like barking to her or something.
Yeah.
It's like it's not using words, so
yeah, to ignore it. Then we're back on the road. The Czech guy's in the passenger seat. He's just passed out. Cut to night. The bad guy is taking down a tent, which is like so he's at the shore that they just left. He goes and grabs some clothes on the beach, and the baby's still there crying. And it kind of gets up and walks around. The guy just leaves it, like he doesn't.
it's just getting the swimmers like belongings, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that because he like picks up some. Yeah. Oh, I thought it was like her like shawl or whatever, but I'm not sure. There's something gets left in front of the baby. He just picks it up and leaves, but. Because when you get that news report, it's just about like the couple drowning. It's nothing about the Czech guy. So
yeah.
Although like, could the Czech guy get to the United Kingdom without like ID or like someone having to declare himself to entering the United Kingdom or anything like that?
I don't know if because the UK would have been part of the EU at that time. And I don't know. Is the Czech Republic part of the EU? Probably. So maybe you could pass between borders without what do they call that? Because I know in the EU you don't need passports to go to EU countries. I don't think some of them don't.
The Czech Republic isn't even the Czech Republic anymore. So
That's true.
Czechia.
I don't know. Either does anyway. Is he is also a foreigner in a foreign land,
Yeah.
so he could be missed right away. He would have to make calls and figure out, and they could be like, "Yeah, he came here, but guess he got washed out to sea." You know, I mean, don't have any remains, so
Then we cut to she's back in the car. She hears a baby crying, but then they realize it's just a baby crying in a car next to her, and it's like the next day. She's in her van. Some guy pulls up next to her and yells something at her, and then they just drive off. She sees a guy walking along the road and parks the van. She gets out and follows him. But as she turns the corner, she like heads back because he's like heading to a club. And then she gets kind of like sucked into this like group of women going to the club. It's like very weird. It's like,
yeah, it does seem kind of odd.
it's like, all right, lady. So now she's inside the nightclub. Of course, they're playing Darude's Sandstorm because I guess you have to. It's like the most famous techno song of all time. It's probably a different version of it. You know, there's probably like 800 versions of Sandstorm. So, she tries to escape the club, but like just ends up in a different part of the club. Here, like she's like the only time she like has kind of emotion where she seems worried. But then she comes across the guy she was following, and he comes up and hits on her. So then she tries to like work that into, and then it cuts to like yeah, she's like, well, he's kind of dancing. I'm not sure she's not really dancing because she doesn't really do that. She just stands there. But then we cut to him. He's dancing in the dark room, and then she lures him into the dark pool. We go further with him. We see him like he's like in this blue tent in the water, and he sees another guy down there, which I guess is actually the swimmer guy, who his body seems unformed.
Yeah,
And then this guy just implodes into nothing but skin, which I guess was this the scene you were like, I won't spoil it for you.
yeah. Well, yeah. It just seems like that's something weird. I was trying to think of what I was thinking about this scene, but it does establish that like yeah, there's something unusual is going on. No, the thing I didn't want to spoil was the guy who was deformed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're left to like, what the hell does this mean? And then we kind of cut to this like conveyor belt of river bloody pulp, and so that's like, all right, what's that mean? It's like, well, that's up to you. And there's kind of like infrared footage and bright orange light. So it's like, is that an oven or what is that? Is that a transporter? Like, what's going on? It's up to you. So, cut the next day. She's back in the van. She's stuck in traffic. A guy buys her a rose in traffic. She sees blood on the rose, which I thought like she cut her hand on the thorn because she didn't know what a rose was. But then it's revealed that like the guy handing out roses has like a wound on his hand. And he's just handing bloody roses to people.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Thanks, I guess. Thanks for bloodborne diseases.
And then here where like she just kind of emotionally stares forward as waits for her turn to go. And this is where we get the news report about the couple that drowned, and you know, presumably the baby's dead because like there's no mention of the baby. So. But none of the aliens did anything to the baby. Just nature took its course, I guess.
Yeah, we're assuming that the tide took it away or something.
Something awful,
Dark.
yeah.
Yeah.
Something they didn't want to show, but let your imagination create a worse future. So.
No matter what, that baby's not making it off that.
Then we cut to moments later. She's got another guy in the van. He's like complimenting her looks. Which I guess if you're like getting a ride from Scarlett Johansson and she's asking you like, "You think I look good?" You gotta be like, "Yes."
Yeah.
Are you crazy?
Yeah, that's another thing. That's one of those first like warning signs. Like, hey, do you think I look good? Yeah, I'll see you later. Whatever's going on here.
Which I don't know. Like guys are so much creeps, but you have to imagine Like, I don't think there's any stories of like, yeah, the guy's got too handsy with her, so like they must have had like security right nearby if anything ever went bad. But I guess what
Well,
the
I'm thinking the people that weren't actors that they did video, like just like the guerrilla photography. Some of those guys seemed like really normal.
yeah.
Or like because there was like the one Arab guy and she was talking to him earlier and he was like he kept talking about his family or whatever, but they kind of let the scene run along because he wasn't an actor and so but yeah, a lot of the people were being normal. I think the real people that were like gross and weird were all
Yeah,
actors.
yeah.
Like I wouldn't imagine that and some people you might have I don't know if she'd be very as recognizably randomly back then as she would be now, but
Well, I mean, she's not really. Well, I guess as Black Widow, she had. Did she have black hair in Black Widow? I can't remember. I can't even think of it. It seems like she's more known for being blonde and
yeah,
redhead stuff. So
that
maybe they won't recognize her with black hair.
yeah, that could be.
I mean, it's I don't know. I don't know hair stuff. I'm guessing she wore a wig for this, or do you think she just dyed her hair?
It's I couldn't
Yeah,
tell you.
I'm not good with that stuff, so I don't know.
Probably wig because it's a lot easier to take a wig off than wait for your hair to grow out
Yeah.
again in a different color or treat it in another color. Because I don't know if you ever had your hair colored, but it gives it the feeling of like straw. It really dries it out, the chemicals that change the
Oh,
color.
okay.
So it's kind of not something you'd want to go back and forth on a lot. That's why when they show people like doing those dye jobs and those I'm running from the law movies, it's your scalp's going to itch for days. You're not letting that take its, you're not having that done right.
But yeah, if we had any women on this podcast, they would know immediately. It seems that women seem to know and look for that stuff, and I'm just completely clueless. Like she has extensions. Like, oh, okay, I didn't, I didn't
She has nice hair. It's fake. Like, how can you tell? Look at the roots. Like if I stare at her that long, she's going to call the cops. I can't do that. I can't just like what are you doing? I'm your roots. I'm looking at no woman's gonna believe that. Or come here, let me see your roots. No.
Yeah, this moments later she's got another guy in the van, he's complimenting her looks. Then we cut to her at the door to the black room, they go inside, then we just cut to her putting makeup on. um the bad man is there, and they're just kind of like standing in a cobblestone in darkness, and then the bad man just kind of like walks around her and observes her. Again, it's completely up to you, like what's going on here, what this means.
I
No
think
dialogue is
I
changed.
considered it an empathy check.
Yeah, yeah,
He's checking to see like how much has she degraded since she started.
yeah.
Which next scene will prove that like yeah, it's justified.
Yeah, he looks into her eyes and then just walks into the darkness. She leaves the building and is walking outside when she trips and falls, and she takes a while to get up. And a couple guys help her up, and then she just keeps walking on, and so do the other people. Which I guess this became like a paparazzi moment or something like that, or like
Okay.
paparazzi are around and picture her slipping and falling, and then they found out that was actually a part of the movie, and she intentionally did that. So.
Joke's on you.
I was like that one paparazzi story where like it was who plays Harry Potter?
I can think of his face, but not as Daniel Radcliffe.
Yes, Daniel Radcliffe. He was like doing some like Broadway play for like 2 weeks or like a month or something like that. And so like the paparazzi were there like every day he was there, and so he wore the exact same clothes for every day because they then people wouldn't buy the paparazzi photos of him because it's like, well, he wore that yesterday, so obviously this isn't the same day. So. Or obviously this is just the same day, so they're like, so they couldn't. So he like pissed off a bunch of paparazzi because they weren't able to make money off of him. So.
Good. All alone. You ever seen those autograph guys?
Mm-hmm. I know it from wrestler stuff because they'll have like wrestlers will know like, oh, someone's flying in to do this wrestling show, or they're going home, and they'll just have like all the figures, all the people. It's like, can you sign this? I'm a fan, and then they just take it and sell it on eBay.
Yeah. I'll go up to these guys and want them to sign like 50 things.
Yeah.
Because I think they even managed to, what's the guy's name? Keanu Reeves. I think they even managed to make him mad. Because this guy kept asking him to sign stuff. He's like, come on, get away from me. I mean, I can't do this all day.
You know, and they're just, you know, standing, you know, in the area before you got to do the TSA check. So they're just like, you know, nobody's policing them. They just stand there all day if they want. So I'm like, I can't. Yeah, that's like, I don't know. They must make money off that because, like, I wouldn't do that for the world. So.
Oh, if I even see famous people, I might be like, hey, you know who that is? I would never approach them and ask them for stuff like pictures, autographs. I'd be mortified. But yeah, sometimes you see this stuff and it's like, this is terrible. And the stuff the paparazzi say to people, just a horrible shit they'll say to get them to look at them so they can take a picture.
Yeah.
It's like, that is absolutely awful.
Yeah, because like they want them to say something off the cuff that they can take out of context because that's money for them. It doesn't matter. Like, they're not on camera. No one's going to care if they say anything awful. So, out of that, as like shady as TMZ seems, they seem to have like, I don't know. They don't seem, I don't know. Like, TMZ doesn't seem as shady as it's actually seems, even though it's like the #1 profit for that stuff. But yeah. Or at least they like, man, when TMZ says someone is dead, they're fucking dead. Like, yeah, it's good to know. Like, it takes CNN a while to commit to that, but like TMZ is like, no, we have somebody on the inside.
Yeah, we paid off the housekeeper.
So yeah, she keeps up and just keeps walking, and then we just got a montage of people of Scotland. So I don't know. Yo, luckily, I like, this is a good movie, but luckily it's a short movie.
Yeah, if this was like 2.5 hours, it'd be a real slog. It would challenge my patience. And I like Russian movies, yeah. So you can understand, like, a little bit of this goes a long way. It's cool and all, but I'm glad that scene was only like 30 seconds. It's like, oh, that was weird, but okay, yeah.
And we get kind of artistic footage where it's kind of like this orange glow that fades into her driving again, which is kind of reminiscent of the poster, not necessarily, but the poster, it's like her face in a star field and she kind of has like this orange glow across of it. Yeah. Which is kind of reminiscent of one scene where she's like lit by like a heater. But yeah. I don't know if that's the case. It's a cool looking poster, but you know, that's probably the most explanation you'll get for this. So yeah, she's looking at some guy when some kid knocks on her window, and then like a gang of kids just start beating up the van, and then she just drives off. It's like, okay, it's hooligans or whatever. I don't know.
Soccer hooligans.
Yeah. Youths. Oh man, I'm playing this game. You ever heard of the game Frostpunk?
Well, that sounds familiar.
It's basically like a Civilization type video game or city builder, but like it's kind of like done in like, you know, what if you had to rebuild a city in Snowpiercer and just everything was just relentlessly cold outside and everything was a struggle, but then you had kind of like cool steampunk stuff you developed on it. Well, I have Frostpunk 2 out now, and it's pretty good because like the first one was like really hard. Like you had to make hard decisions and then bad things happen. Here it's the same things happen, but like you can still, like, it feels like you can still progress even the more horrible things happen. So it's like, well, we're not making enough materials. It's like, well, one of the groups, like the Catholics basically have like asked like, well, maybe we should institute child labor to cover the gap. And it's like, okay, let's institute child labor. And then it's like, all right, well then, and then later on it says like, you know, morale has gone down because there's like so many injuries from child labor.
Yeah, just kids with arms missing. created a public sadness.
So you have like those decisions, or even like stuff where it's like, oh yeah, this makes sense, and then it'll have like some, backfire ramification later on. So it's like good, but it's just putting you like making the most horrible decisions possible. I was like, in this one, I set up a second city, and then like the I think they're called the Wanderers. They show up and it's like some like pilgrimage or whatever. Like this was the old city we used to go to. Like now you've desecrated it. We want like 3,000 gallons of oil, or we're going to like riot in your city. I was like, all right, I think I can do that. So I'm starting to put together oil. But then I realized like I only have 5 weeks left, and I still have like I'm not gonna make the quota. And so then I had the alternate option to basically send the police to go beat up the Wanderers and push them away. It's like, all right, I'm gonna do that because like I'm not gonna make the quota in time. So that hasn't been any repercussions for that yet. So the city seemed happy that the Wanderers weren't at the doorstep waiting for oil, and then they got to keep the oil. So, yeah, it's a great game for just like like a comically bad decisions you have to make at every moment. So.
Yeah. It wouldn't be as enthralling if it was called Grim Decision. It makes it sound like, there's an element of
Well,
Victorian age steampunk,
Yeah. Well, yeah, you have like these different factions that you have to kind of appease and like different ways. There's like the New Londoners where they want to make like new technology and like kind of survive the cold that way with like through technology. And then there's the Frostlanders, which that's like the majority of your population. They kind of like, no, we need to become one with the environment. And you have a lot of like those people, you send them out on missions to go like discover stuff and make new cities and stuff. And then you have like the Faith Keepers, where they're basically like Catholics. So which they have some good ideas, but then they get really pushy. It's like, this is stupid. Why are we doing this? But then if you don't follow it, then you make them unhappy and they want to riot. And then the weird ones are the Evolvers, where they're like about like, yeah, let's cut off limbs and replace it with robot arms and stuff like that. And it's like, you're weird, but you have some good ideas. But they're like when you like research medicine, it's like they're your number one guy. So, yeah, so that's Frostpunk too. Anyways. But yeah. In that game, you have to make decisions because at some point there was like the youths were committing crime because so then you have to decide like, are we gonna put them in school or are we gonna make them work? So it's like if you do nothing, they're just gonna like raise havoc. So you have to like put them to work or put them in school. So.
Send them to the workhouse. Please, sir, may I have another?
So yeah, then she like finds somewhere, she parks, rolls down the passenger window, which this is a whole to do where she has to like park, undo her seat belt, go to the other the passenger door, roll it down, get back in her seat, and be like, "Hey, can you give me directions?" So here she catches a guy, give her directions. He's going to a supermarket. He has a deformed face. She asks him why he shops at night, and then she asks him if he has like any friends or girlfriends, which just seems like really cruel to us. But then she's just like, "Well, I just have to go through this checklist," and he's like, "Yeah, I don't have any," which like you feel sad for him. And then she tries to seduce him, and she has like keeps having him like touch her, but he like just touches her like face and like neck and hands and stuff like that. So it's nothing too weird. Well, I guess it's all weird. But you see the guy pinches himself because he's like, "Am I dreaming?" But he's still like, "Yeah, I just want to go to the grocery store." So it's like, can you do that? So, but like, yeah, here you don't have any idea if she like has any clue that like, oh, he's deformed and different. Like she seems to just like pass that off as like, well, humans all look the same to her, so like, why is this guy any different? So, because it seems like she's asking questions she should know the obvious too. It's like, why are you shopping at night? It's like, well, because people don't like looking at my face, and she's like, she never says what's wrong with it, but that's basically what's implied here. She's like, she has, like, what, humans are weird. So, Um, then she takes him to like the. This is where you get like it's, you see like a kind of dingy door and she opens, but this is like where it's like you see like more of the place and it's just a moldy dark house. It's like if you think you're having sex here, you better leave. Then we cut to the dark room. Um, there's like a audio of their encounter, and then there's a shot of a dark figure in the room, which is kind of like what the aliens look like. But here, there's no context for it whatsoever. But that's what you have to guess. Although I
Yeah.
don't know like which alien this is here. Is it just her, like at a different time? Is it one of the other guys, or I can't even remember if like the figure is male or female. I can't even remember. It's just kind of like an intercut. Um,
Yeah, I'm not sure what that represents
it's fully up to you. So
because I know the motorcycle rider, like he is with other motorcycle riders later.
yeah,
So it's like, oh, is there a team of these aliens? Is this one of those like
yeah.
pre-skin? Like, you don't know.
Then we cut back to her, and she's with the guy. She's leading him through the dark water. There's one more shot of the dark figure. Then we cut to like she leaves the dark room and then catches herself in a dirty mirror and just stares into it, which is like hold on for a long time. So this is up to you what this means, because like at first it's like oh it's like self reflection, but then it's like oh this can't be like the first time she sees a mirror. So then I thought at some point like maybe this is where they get like their like directions from, like maybe this is like they look into this mirror and they're getting like headquarters like stuff from headquarters, but this is like kind of like the point where she like turns around and like starts to like go off mission. So this must be some kind of self-reflection thing where she sees herself as more human than whatever she is before. So then she starts to
Yeah.
have empathy and gets maybe I don't know. Because then like the next scene she lets the deformed guy out. It's like wait, how do they get him out of there? But it's like she doesn't give him his clothes back. She just lets him out. Um, she hops in the van. The deformed guy like walks to the countryside naked at dawn. We see the bad guys out riding. He breaks into a car and pops a trunk, and then it's like, what's going on here? But then he moves forward in the backyard and he grabs the deformed guy, beats him up, and throws him in the trunk of the car and drives off. There's a lady watching across the street, so it's like, is their cover blowing? What's going on? So, um,
It's another one of those things that happens in this movie where it's just like, okay, it's just like a random, like, yeah, people would see that, but what would they do?
yeah.
Like if I saw that in real life, it's like, oh, okay. I mean, I'd probably like pull my phone out and one, but
Yeah, it did leave his bike. I wonder if he just leaves it there or does he collect it later? um, and then like how did he know to go there? How far off is this? No idea. It's up to you. What
yeah, you don't know what this alien tech tree looks like.
I mean,
Like they track people that have been in the water. Did he know this was going on? Were there cameras around the house?
yeah.
Yeah, you have no idea.
She's cut to her driving in the van until the fog is too dense to see through. Then she just gets out and walks into the fog and just stands in the middle of the street. And it's like I was waiting for her to get like hit by a car or something, but so she just stares into the dense fog. She can like hear like someone humming and like birds for a moment, but that's never like revealed or anything. It's just
No, it's just a weird like thing.
there's also like some of it sounds like muted too. Like her footsteps sound muted, but like other sounds don't. So it's just an interesting like audio scape here. So then we have like a wide shot of her like walking out of the fog. Then we cut to the bad man looks into the mirror for a moment, but he doesn't seem to have any kind of self-reflection. Again, this is like where I thought like maybe the mirror was dispensing directions that we don't hear, but I don't know. um, let me see the female sitting alone at some like diner. She's ordered a piece of cake. She slowly tries to eat it, but then just coughs it up immediately. So this is up to you, like like what this means. Like, oh, she's decided she's gonna be human, and then realizes she can't eat their food. So, which that's sort of a thing in the book. Um, like she never eats chocolate in the book. Because like she says that disagrees with her, but like but like the only thing she ever eats is like potato chips, and she really likes water in the book. Um, And then there's like the sad thing because she talks about like her lips because like they're just slapped on, but there's no nervous system there, so she can't feel anything until like it gets into her mouth, and it's like, oh, delicious water. um.
Well, that would make sense. She couldn't eat chocolate because foxes are canines.
Oh, okay.
And chocolate is lethal to canines.
Oh.
So are grapes. Actually, chocolate is lethal to a lot of things. We're some of the few things that can actually eat it.
Well, I don't know how much chocolate is good for us either, but
It doesn't kill us.
No.
Not from the cocoa does not interact with enzymes in our body and make poison.
No.
It just
it's usually the milk and sugar we add with it that's gonna.
Yeah, that's what's gonna kill you.
I always hear like dark chocolate's like it's good for you, a lot of antioxidants, and like I sort of like dark chocolate, but I'm not like a dark chocolate weirdo. So.
I got some chocolate once at some place that it was like bitter.
Yeah.
And it was a really high percentage of but then I actually like felt like I'd smoked a cigarette or something like that. Was off of it. I was like, oh, this is wild.
I made my vegan cookies one time. Well, I guess not mine. But bean juice vegan cookies, and I put dark chocolate chips in it, and then also peanut butter M&Ms. So it was an interesting cookie. So. So yeah, then she leaves there. She goes out walking. A guy tells her the bus will be along in a minute, and so then she just takes forever to go sit in the bus waiting booth or whatever. So she's like, okay. She's like, then she's on the bus, and the driver's like admonishing her for like not being dressed for the weather. And then the other guy on the bus is asking if she needs help, and then like, I don't know if this guy's duplicitous or not. Like, he seems like almost genuine, but then takes advantage of her. But then it's like, I don't know what's going on. It's like,
yeah, this is the part of the movie where it takes almost like a vaguely dreamlike quality.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, are we watching her just dissociate from everything at this point where we're only seeing it through her eyes and she's an alien and a lot of it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because we're missing parts of the story. Like, why is she acting this way? Why are people acting this way to her? I don't know if we're getting into that unreliable narrator here.
Well, now she's not like seducing people, so she's not using any of her charms, but she's also just being a blank slate out in the world, trying to like blend in with humans.
Yeah, she's being completely autistic
Yes.
at this point. You need a service animal, some kind of.
Yeah, no, it's clearly like we should get her to a mental institution, but because she's a pretty lady, it's like, well, what if we take advantage of her? Not first, but like second or third, then we take advantage of her.
Would you like to go to a place where you can feel safe? Stop by my house first, perhaps. Take your clothes off. Relax. No pressure. Yeah. Oh, there's people that think like that.
Yeah.
Genuine psychopaths in the world. Just when it comes to sex, not every other part of their life, they're normal. But yeah.
Well, yeah, and there's also like
most of our favorite Hollywood actors and comedians are in some way that.
Yeah, there's like those like incel type guys where it's like, I opened the door for that woman. Why isn't she giving me a blowjob?
Yes, that's a excuse me. It's a very rational like question. I showed you kindness to me. Now, why don't you like do something intimate? It's not how this works, right? Because you think these people weren't raised by humans that think this. It's like, oh, I showed you kindness. I deserve a sex act. It's like, what? What kind of like transactional world were you raised in where it's like, well, I didn't beat the shit out of you, so let's have sex. Yeah. It's like, what is this world?
Yeah, I didn't rape you. Where's my award? It's like, that's how some people think. So.
Where's my good guy award for not doing the worst?
That's why like now calling somebody a good guy has the opposite like of what that used to mean. So.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to say, "Oh, he was a nice guy" or anything. I want people to say like, "Yeah, he actually ignored me." It's like mission accomplished. Now we can both stay employed. Isn't that wonderful? Oh, he won't even make eye contact. He's a weirdo. No, I'm just keeping my job.
So they get off the bus. She's following the guy around. So now this is kind of a switch of things where it's like the guy's leading her around. She's wearing his jacket. They stop at a grocery store. Um, she follows the guy to his house, and it's like I said, it's kind of a role reversal. But no, she's not taking her. He's not taking her to her doom. He's just taking her to like I don't know what this guy does, but he's got a house and seems like no car. But like that's not really how these places work. You don't necessarily need a car in these kinds of places. So
Yeah, they got like buses and stuff.
um, and so then they're just watching TV, which I don't know what the hell they're watching. Um, he's made beans and toast. She's not eating it, but I don't know. Do you think she eats it? Because it doesn't seem like when he's doing dishes, there's no food left. So
I don't think she can. I think she's like a machine, so I
Okay.
don't think she can eat.
Then we cut to the guys do.
Explains like some things that happen in the next 10 minutes. It's like, yeah, really good.
We cut to the guys doing dishes, and he's like listening to the radio. She just sits in the corner, and she like barely reacts to the music. She like kind of taps her fingers. So, again, like you gotta make a mountain out of molehill. What that means?
Yeah. Well, it's just someone trying in some way to assimilate into human
Yeah.
behavior.
Then we cut to like he brings her some hot cocoa and puts out a space heater and leaves her the room to herself. So then like we cut to like the main lights in the room are turned off, so now it's just lit by the space heater. So it has this like interesting orange look about it, and then she looks at herself naked in the mirror under the orange glow of the heat element. Which I'm guessing this is like her accepting like, yeah, I'm a human, because then what happens next is like, I guess not. So that's like the fall, I guess. And we cut to the bad man and his motorcycle gang are out probably looking for her. So that being the end of Act 2. We got Act 3. The Scottish guy or whatever is taking her out to look at a castle. He picks her up and walks over some water, which kind of seems fun at first. And then they're walking around the castle, and she's hesitant to walk down into the dark spiral staircase, which I guess like from the book you'd pick up on. Like she's in the book, she's claustrophobic, but I don't know if you pick up on that. That's what's going on here, or if it's because it's like he's leading her into a dark hallway. She's like, "Well, that's what I do to other people. This is gonna end in my death." And he's like, "No, it's okay." So I'm not sure. What do you get out of that, Nathan?
Yeah, I think it's just her like, I don't know if she's reacting that way to try to like, oh, this would be a human reaction, like I'm afraid of the dark, or she legitimately is.
Yeah.
Like we don't know, because maybe like because of the stuff she was doing before, like the dark has a different implication to her. It's like, oh, that's before they suck all the meat out of your something. It's
Then we had the awkward kissing scene with the guy, because she's never kissed a guy before and probably doesn't even know what that is.
no.
This is where it's like weird. It's like, man, what are you doing? Like from his perspective, she should be like mentally ill. That's why he should be looking at this lady at. But it's like, yeah, but she's pretty. So
Yeah. Who's into this, right? It's like, no, I think she knows what's going on, and you're a weirdo.
And then what you're supposed to get out of the movie is like, from her perspective, she's having an identity crisis where she's like, am I human or am I not?
Yeah.
So then we have time for an awkward sex scene. I don't know if they had intimacy coordinators at this time, but so, have you heard of those, Nathan?
No, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I don't know when they got started, but yeah, basically now it's like people who, like, instead of just having a director yell at you during a sex scene and make everything awkward, there's like this person you get that kind of like brokers deals between the actors. Like, this is what will happen in the sex scene where we don't have sex.
If I was directing a movie, it would all be science fiction stuff, so it wouldn't be necessary, but I just would not include sex scenes in the movie. It would be like they closed the door to the apartment and you just guess what went on, because it's hard to look at a camera and deliver lines and not laugh for me, let alone like we're going to simulate sex. I would just be giggling and be like, no, we're not doing this. But this seems like deliberately awkward.
Yeah.
Because as I remember, like they're trying to have sex, and then she like stops and feels herself and realizes like, oh, I don't have any genitals.
Yeah,
What's going on? I can't do this. Just like I can't eat cake. I'm just a construct. I'm not
yeah.
to do whatever this is.
Yeah, the guy's
this is
trying. Yeah, the guy's trying to find a hole or whatever. It's up for you. Like that's what's good.
yeah.
And then she kind of, then she gets up and kind of runs to the edge of the bed, holds a lamp to her crotch, and and then just walks out of there.
It's like I'm a Barbie doll.
Yeah.
Like I don't. There's nothing going on there. So
Yeah, I didn't know if it was like that or if there's like or if maybe her skin suit started to come undone that way or something. I don't know. It's up. It's again. That's up for you to like what happened.
I mean, I have, like I said, I made the decision very early on. This was a machine.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, if it's just a seduction machine, but there's like completing the act is not involved, well, they're not going to waste the time and money
Yeah.
engineering something. So, but she's going through this empathy catharsis where she wants to be a human, and she's now come to the point in her apotheosis where she realizes, wait a minute, I'm not a human. I have none of the requisite components to be a human.
Yeah.
Which is why we go into the next scene. We're just wandering through the woods.
Yep. Next scene, she's out walking the woods. She comes across some guy in coveralls and a high vis jacket, which he's like a logger or something. He
Yeah,
gives her like a lowdown on the area being like slippery and there's like marked place and it's a good place to be alone. Which like it seems like okay, well for a guy in the middle of the woods, he seems nice, and then he won't be. But
yeah. He's like, this is a friendly fellow. He's like, this is the woodsman you always want to meet. It's like, hello, stranger. I have lore for you. Be wary of do not walk near the pond in the forest. It's slippery. And it's like cool. It's like a magical story, but no, it's not. It's the farthest thing from that.
we get shots of the Batman out on his motorcycle, which is where he's like racing along on, like in the rain and soaked roads, and it's like, oh, that's fucking crazy, man.
Like, no.
It's like this is he might as well be riding in like the Isle of Man TT. He's like you're about to die.
Yeah. He has the upper body strength of a dancer, just to keep that bike up on two wheels. It's nuts. Some people, that scene would go right over their head, like he's riding in the rain. But to me, it really resonated as like, that's crazy.
Yeah, he's got to find this woman.
Those cool bikes too with the special engines.
Let me cut to her. She's like kind of under some tree brush, and then makes her way to some like cabin in the wood that's for hikers to take shelter.
It's called a bothy.
Yeah.
And the only reason I know that is because I watch videos on YouTube all the time about staying in Irish and Scottish and British bothies.
Oh, okay. Here it's kind of like a wood cabin, but inside it's like all cobblestone, and then like kind of like a plank area for like laying down or whatever.
Yeah, the thing is, it's like for what are bothies like? They don't have power, they don't have water, they don't have external gas hookups or anything. It's just like it's a place to go when it's cold, and you burn some firewood and just kind of camp overnight. It's a place to set up a rucksack or a camping bag, sleeping bag, it's a camping bag. And just like hike through those highlands or whatever.
Yeah,
they're in the sides of mountains, they're everything. It's kind of like a gentleman's agreement that you clean up after yourself and you leave it good for the next guy, and if anyone shows up, you're nice to them. But yeah, that's the only reason I know about those. It's like, oh, that's a bothy, because there's no like electricity hooked up to it or anything. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, and my fantasies of traveling in different places of the world, it's like I want to stay in those, and then I wake up and realize, oh, I'm a 50-year-old guy. Up on the ground, I would probably need to go to the hospital to have my back straight or something.
She takes a long time to lay down the cabin. She takes like 2 minutes to scoot to the back of the cabin to lay down.
Yeah, she just doesn't know what she's doing at this. But she knows she wants to be alone because she found out she's a Barbie doll, and it's freaking her out. Which I would freak anyone out.
Yeah.
Imagine waking up and you're a Ken doll. It's like, wait, where's my genitals?
The wind is picking up outside. She wakes up to the high vis guy like rubbing her body, and she immediately runs out of there.
Yeah, and this guy's a real pig of a looking guy too.
Yeah.
He's he's just like, oh, he's a monster. I mean, no offense against the actor. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I did a good job of playing a creep here.
Yeah.
And especially a creep in a safety vest, the worst kind of creep.
You see him coming a mile away, just to be a creep.
Just to be a sicko.
She comes across his logging truck and hops into the driver's seat, but then she can't like figure out how to drive the truck or whatever. And then the high vis guy shows up, and then she just runs off. He gives chase. He wrestles her to the ground and sexually assaults her, and then it starts snowing. And then her skin comes undone, which I thought it was like oil leaping out or whatever, because like how they look is just like it's like a human covered in oil or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's revealing a completely dark humanoid underneath. He runs off because he's weirded out. She kind of like undoes the skin and like looks at like her face, which it still has eyes and stuff like that. Still like,
and it's still looking around.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Yeah. Because I was wondering, it's like, because like when they have like when the guy implodes, like that's kind of how the skin looks that's left over. So I didn't know if like, oh, is that how they did this, or did they build it? Like, yeah, no, it's up for you. So, I mean, the beginning implies they built this whole thing, but whatever. So, so she looks at the skin on the face for a while, and then the high vis guy shows up, just sets her on fire. She runs, collapses.
The Thing style, just like burn it, just.
Yeah, she runs, collapses, and dies.
But the scary thing about this scene is, okay, it's like, oh, I get that this guy's freaked out. He would have done this if it was an actual woman and he raped her and killed her. He would have still set her on fire.
Okay.
That's most people don't get that. I got that as like, this guy knows what to do. It's like, oh, I didn't finish my mission yet, because it's an alien, but I'm still gonna follow through with the plan, which is douse it in.
Yeah, he wasn't protecting humanity. He was just doing his what he does. So.
Yeah, this is what this guy does. I want to know who has that job of lone wilderness logger. It's like the only people applying for that job are guys like this. I would not want to be out in the woods. Actually, I probably would enjoy being out in the woods alone doing a job, but that's just because I don't like to be around people. So you wouldn't have to worry about, me murdering anyone. I just like, please don't talk to me.
Then we cut to the bad guys on top of the hill looking around. It's snowing. It's not visibility. He doesn't see her or anything, but or maybe, I don't know. Well, I think maybe you see the smoke in the distance or something like that. Then we cut back to her, and she's pretty much just burnt to a crisp, and the smoke from her body drifts into the air, which this is something that would makes sense from the book. I'm not sure if it meant anything. I don't know, Nathan. What's your interpretation of that? Like, what do you think that means?
What, the smoke into the air?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like the end of her life.
Okay,
that's what it meant. But I didn't read the book, and you did. So
yeah, I don't know if you'd have a different interpretation. What directly in the book means is like, so yeah, she's trying to run away in the book. She has her handy dandy red Toyota Corolla because it's mentioned quite often. She really likes her car. She's like trying to run away, and then a guy runs up to her and is like, "My wife's having a baby. We got to get to the hospital." And so, in the book, it's a constant thing for her. She always drives like slower than the speed limit because she's trying to keep everything like stay out of trouble and not draw attention. So this time she kind of like picks up the speed and hits like an ice patch. The car crashes off. Guy gets thrown through the window. She's basically like she's still alive, but it's a car wreck, and then people come up to her and she's like, it's like, yeah, we're calling the ambulance, stuff like that. And she's like, you need to get away from the car. I think it might blow up. And they're like, no, it's fine. And like she kind of like talks the people away from it, and then she hits a special device in the car that's basically like a mini thing that will basically atomize her in the car and leave a crater. And then she talks about like the last thing she talks about, like, or she thinks about, is about how like, well, at least her atoms will be like displaced into the sky, and eventually over millions of years will become other things. She'll be the rain and the snow and be a part of this whole life cycle, and that's the end of the book. So, right. So I'm not sure if you see her smoke drifting in the air at the end of this movie, that's what you're going to, because you you get no inner monologue whatsoever for this character in the movie. So
Now, what I get out of it is a sad robot who was trying to be a human was basically met a Scottish logger slash serial killer, and he just destroyed her. And it was the end of a very confused life. And there won't be any like revelations to humanity about I found an alien because this guy's not talking. All the evidence has essentially been destroyed.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I got out of it was she was here and nobody knew she was here. And she did bad things, but then empathy took over and she somehow wanted to be human. But we don't know exactly why, because the last one, which is the woman that the motorcycle rider brings in for her to take her clothes, is like, was she just the same thing? Do they all get defective eventually because they're designed to be empathetic enough to seduce men, and it all ends the same way? I don't know. The aliens definitely seem to be interested in operational security and not being found out for some reason.
Yeah.
Whether it's just a selfish reason of we want a constant supply of human slurry, or some other reason like we don't want. This seems to be like kind of a story about exploitation and kind of colonialism on an alien scale, but humans are the food.
Yeah.
That's what I got out of the movie. I don't know what the book's like. But
I mean, it's kind of in the book, but it's more like comical in the book. Like it's like late stage capitalism stuff.
okay.
Not necessarily survival or anything like that. But yeah. So she smokes in the movie. She burns up smoke. Credits, black and white. That's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the book, like I said, they switch it up. Like the aliens think of themselves as humans, and they think humans. They call them vaudeville, which I think that's like it's like Dutch for food or something like that.
Okay.
And so yeah, they take in men, and then like they cut their tongues out and then castrate them, and then they fatten them up with like nutrients and stuff from their planet, and then they hack them up and turn them to food, and they bring them back to the planet, and it's like a luxury food.
Oh, okay.
So that's all it is. It's not like survival. It's like just purely for rich people.
Oh, okay. So it's not like alien abduction type stuff. Like we must study their
No, and
intestines.
it's not even like they're gonna take over Earth. It's just like cool. We found some food. Found some like exotic food.
Oh, okay.
And then like the like son of the president of the company that's like set up this whole thing, like comes by to look at the plant, and so he's like a fox guy. So he's like he doesn't go outside, so he's just inside the plant and stuff. And he's actually there to like kind of like look at her and be like, these are thinking living beings. Like, don't you think you should like stop doing this? And then she's like, I don't think about it. So, because she never like, eventually she gets to the part where she like wants to. She never, looks at what happens to these guys after she like brings them in. Because like what she wanted was kind of like a quiet place to herself. Because like on her planet, like most people like live underground. You get to live above ground if you're rich, but even then you can't go outside. So here she has like a shitty little cabin to herself, and she can kind of go look at the ocean, and then the rest of the time she's just driving around picking up guys and then stinging them with a hypodermic needle that puts them out, and then if she determines that nobody will miss them, and then brings them there, and that's our job. So and then at some point like a guy tries to rape her, and then that's when she's like, all right, I want to see how these guys are ripped apart. Like she kind of wants revenge, and then then she basically starts having empathy, and then essentially like decides like, well, I guess I'm more human than, or more vaudeville than human now. So, and then they're like they're kind of like fox like creatures with long necks and have prehensile tails, and so like now imagine, and they walk on all fours. So now imagine them having to cut somebody up to make them into a human, like the kind of pain that brings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then throwing giant breasts on her that she can't feel or anything like that. It's just purely aesthetics looking and stuff like that. And even
So they're just doing like physical surgery. They're not even doing like genetic modification.
No.
Okay. It's just Frankenstein's monster type stuff. Okay.
Yeah, because there's like, because the people like because she also has like she has giant glasses on where it's like prescription glasses, which is one supposed to like make it so like, oh, that's why her eyes are weird because they're prescription, but it's in like, no, that's her alien weird eyes, but that's supposed to cover it up. So um and then like, like some people like, yeah, like, the guys will see her, and then of course like they always come across her boobs, so that's what they focus on, so they kind of miss the other stuff. But then there's like one guy who's like kind of like a medical student from Germany who's like quitting school, so then he like starts to notice like all the things on her, like, oh, that's like a surgical scar and stuff like that. And then you kind of realize like, and then like when the one guy rapes her, like she has like just a scar, just like basically all along her back, where they just like split her open and made her into a human and stuff like that. Which, like, when you start out with it, it's kind of like, she's just a pretty lady, pretty little lady with big boobs, and then it's like, as you get towards the end of it, it's like, yeah, you're like you're saying, it's like she's Frankenstein by the end of the book. So, um, but yeah, then she decides she can't do it anymore, and then she tries to run off, and then she hits the self-destruct device when she decides, well, I guess this, I can't go any farther. I'm just pretending too much. So I'm gonna atomize myself and hide all the evidence. Of just turning humans into like a luxury food. So, and it was also mentioned at the end where like some guys like, hey, we should start getting women in here, and like it'd be nice if they still had their legs. And I'm like, wait, what? so, so they're gonna turn women into chicken wings or something like that. But yeah, so like, yeah, it's not like there's no necessity to like what they do to humans in the book. It's just pure luxury, so that's even more like ridiculous, And like I think it's called Voss is the name of the company, and so like, yeah, it's just like it was worth this company to like travel worlds, and I don't even know how it is. They talk about a ship, but I don't know if there's like if like the ship has warp speed, if it's just like if there's some interdimensional thing that connects them, or what's going on here, how long it takes between shipments. Like, that's not necessarily explained, but it's not a long book, but it is interesting. So
That sounds like kind of like a Kurt Vonnegut novel almost.
yeah,
Like it's kind of like sci-fi satire.
yeah. I mean, it's not exactly funny. It's just like it is, but yeah, it is ridiculous. Yeah. I guess, yeah, like Cat's Cradle esque or whatever. But even that's
Right.
more, even I mean, Cat's Cradle has like punchlines, but with like the end of Cat's Cradle is just really sad. So imagine the end of Cat's Cradle, but the entire book. So, yeah, I don't know if that guy ever wrote anything else or whatever, but it was okay. But yeah, it is like a fascinating adaptation because again, like, yeah, that's what you have to do with adaptations of books is like, well, you can't have the inner monologue because it'll make it weird. So then you have to find other ways to do that. But here it's just like, what if we just cut out everything? All exposition, all inner monologue, and it's just purely up to you what's going on. And I guess they did have like grander designs for this movie, like a more expensive movie, like starring like Brad Pitt and some other people, and then they just made like, well, what's the lowest budget we can get out of this? So, and it's a good looking low budget movie, so that's
Yeah, it's a great movie with great sound design, great weird disconcerting music.
yeah.
I like the soundtrack so much. I thought, well, it's like, well, it'd be cool to play some, but or we can't do that. You can you can go look
Yeah.
up the soundtrack for this
Probably
anywhere
on
and listen.
Spotify or something. You can probably find it somewhere streaming. So, or
Yeah,
just watch, or
it's
just watch the movie and get it that way too. So,
yeah, definitely watch this movie. Support this movie.
it was on Canopy, but not for me. My library wasn't lending it out at the time. So,
But our good friends at Amazon Prime always have it to rent.
yeah,
And it's worth a look. But hey, either you're gonna love it or you're gonna
yeah.
hate it.
There's a reason I never watched it because I knew like, oh, it's an indie sci-fi movie that's low budget, so it's like, you're not gonna get like, oh, entertainment throughout. It's like you're gonna like, oh, this is gonna be kind of weird cinematography and discordant the entire time, and awkward and lots of silence and again no explanation about what's going on, so it's all up for you. So it's like I don't know what mood you got to be in to watch the movie, but like it's got to be some kind of particular mood. But it is a very interesting movie. So, and
Yeah.
and a good low budget sci-fi movie because it is well shot and everything, and they don't and the like the few moments of like kind of like sci-fi stuff going on there is well done, and even it's like kind of like low budget. It's like, well, just cover the walls in black, kind of hide some stuff, and then it's up to your imagination. Is it Lars von Trier that does like weird movies? Like, was that did he do Dogville or what was that? Where it's like basically it's a movie that's like shot on a set. And it's like all black and white, but it's like meant to be taken like a serious like kind of like almost like Shakespeare drama or something like that.
It sounds right. I haven't seen all his movies, so I couldn't tell you about that one specifically. But
Yeah, I think it's Dogville. Yeah, yeah. Hey Nathan, why don't you watch the trailer for Dogville? It is
right.
Lars von Trier. Okay, I was right about that. Maybe they'll show it. I think that's the gimmick to Dogville.
Not Godville. I misspelled it. I'm gonna watch it, but with the sound off, so we don't get
Get a strike.
No, mute. No, mute.
Oh, I don't think they show off the gimmick in the trailer. Okay, they were right to not do that. So okay. Anyways,
yes, I'm just seeing Nicole Kidman ringing a bell.
Okay, so you have to imagine those sets that you see her in and pull out, and it's just a black set that like the 3/4 of the set is missing, and it's just like the one side, and that's how the movie is shot. It's just like this drama, an old timey drama shot like without
Oh, okay, I see it. It's like a Potemkin village, but you get to see the parts of it that aren't real. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
That reminded me of that with this movie when they go into the dark room and stuff like that. And they do have the one white room, so that's different. That just brought me to THX 1138. So
Yeah, this seems to share a lot of DNA with like 2001 THX 1138. Like a lot of those like discordant kind of science fiction type movies.
yeah.
And it takes its time, but not excessively. This isn't a long movie.
No, it'll feel long, but
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a movie to drink to.
yeah.
So start watching it sober and just continue to drink on the way through, and by the end of it, you'll be like, "That was a great movie," because you're feeling the same dissociative effects she is, but you're feeling it because of alcohol.
And I don't know if reading the book makes it better. Because
yeah, you did, I didn't. So
I feel like I got more out of the movie as to, oh, this is what's going on. But then again, like you could second guess yourself. Like there's that stream of meat going on. And it's like, okay, like humans are food, but like to what extent? Like, is it the same way it is in the book where it's like this is like caviar for aliens, or is this like their pure survival, or is it like you said, like this is just a well, like if you think these are like machine people, like do you think they're being controlled by different aliens, or these are the aliens and the aliens are the machine people?
Well, here's what I thought upon watching the movie the first time in like 2013. What I got out of it is these were like, some kind of machines. I don't know. Some kind of mechanical substrate that actual physical biological aliens sent to Earth to conduct this research, we'll say. Because we don't know about the thought processes of the aliens, how they do research, what they want, why they would want to suck the insides out of a human and send it back through a time tunnel through their planet. If that's even what's going on, it could be they're just analyzing the insides of a human and just shooting data back to the planet, because you can't, in order to physically get from here to there, it takes thousands of years or whatever, unless you're using like special things that you can't send biological life through. So they're just I see this as just like a big research project by aliens that don't understand humanity, but understand enough of like, oh, you have to relate to fulfill this, this social contract to get men to go with this woman. so that we can break them down and analyze them. So we have just like the straight up robot, which would be like the motorcycle rider. And then we have, which is like, that's the man, that's the male. Men are typically way more logical and less empathetic than women. And then we design like the female type robot that experiences empathy but must be controlled by the man at all times because she runs the risk of going off track and becoming a human. But we have to keep this all secret because we don't want humans to find out about us, because we don't understand them. But the limited things we do know is that maybe we're exceptionally violent or exceptionally intuitive, and they don't want to be known. So it's like what I see this as is like, okay, we're an alien race, and that don't understand why humans act the way they do because we have a completely different biology, different planet, whatever. So we're sending out our own version of von Neumann machines, which will make themselves to look like humans and try to infiltrate their society and send data back to us. We're not, just like we don't put like empathy into the Mars rover or anything. We just send it out and say, good luck. And send us data back. It's just drilling into rock to us, but we don't know what's going on Mars. It could be an apocalypse, whatever life is on Mars, but we just want data back. So that's what I get out of this, having never read the book. So I see this as almost like a super intelligent race sending a kind of a subset machine intelligence that it's created to Earth to interact imperfectly with people, but because the really important end result is getting more data.
Yeah.
Because maybe the female robots are less prone to defect over time as they gather more, human slurry to analyze. We don't know. That's what I got.
Yeah, then that's a cool interpretation. So, like, if you had read the book, you probably wouldn't have thought any of that, maybe. So
no, the book seems more like I said, more Vonnegut-esque of like, yeah, this is Cat's Cradle, or this is something from Harlan Ellison would do stuff like this too. It's like play with your emotions. It's like see how cynical you can be, and look, it's the aliens are even more cynical, but they have better technology, so we're screwed. Why be the Nazi? That's
and also way more empathy for her in the book when she has to realize that she was cut up to do all this, and she has to do exercises all the time because she doesn't do them. She'll basically become a cripple. She has fur because she's like a fox creaser, so she has to constantly shave that off every morning.
God. That sounds as fun as having to do a skin graft every day.
Yeah. And she's almost thankful for the scars because the fur doesn't grow where the scars are. So
see, the book and the movie here are obviously two completely different things.
Yeah, but their mechanism is the same. It's this lady picking up people, people that won't be missed in Scotland to be delivered for some reason. So
yeah, but I always assumed it was some deeper thing. A more sinister X-Files type intelligence, or just something curious that doesn't have the emotional spectrum that we do, or something. Because that's the thing about alien life; it could literally be anything, and you can't be counterfactual in saying it. It's like, we don't know. But what if penguins were suddenly given the ability to have human level thoughts? What would they say to you? It would be gibberish. I mean, it would make no sense at all. There's a reason it didn't happen. So that's it's a fun game to play.
But in the book, it's the people are cruelly tortured to be made into food, whereas here it's you don't really know what's going on, but it seems to you don't know how much pain they're in, but it seems with the when they finally suck the meat out, it seems to be very quick, and you wouldn't be able to react to it. So
yeah, it seems like it kind of there's not that's not being dissected from the feet up or something. Yeah. That's different.
I mean, they do hit them with kind of a cattle prod before they before they dice them up, but because there's the one part where they start describing them running away, and this is what I thought these are the aliens because calling them Vodsil, and I think they said that they're running around on all fours, but I think that's just because I'm not sure if they were or not, but then they talk about like they had like blue diarrhea and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, that's from them feeding them the nutrients so that they could then eat them. Because if they
Yeah.
have human food, then they can't eat them, but they feed them. I'm not sure if they're feeding them alien food or if they're just feeding them certain nutrients or whatever to force them into. But and there's like terrible food we have like that too, where you like it's like
Oh, like
veal.
front
Yeah,
bar and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. It's that's basically like the direct analogy. And then like they cut their tongues out and stuff like that to hide the fact that they have intelligence.
Oh,
Because there's a part where there's like the son of the boss there who's like trying to prove like we shouldn't be eating these things because they have like intelligence. And like one of the humans in the cage like writes mercy on the ground in the sand. And then he looks at it and he's like asks her like what's that mean, and she knows what it's mean, but she pretends I don't know, it's just some scratches.
just random geometric
Yeah,
shapes.
just like because he doesn't know that they can have a language or a written language or anything like that because they're presented as animals to him. Because even one part, like he knows, like, oh, there's a sea out there. Can you just take me out in the car to the sea? And she's like, no, like you're a fox creature. We can't hide you in the red Toyota Corolla. So,
Yeah, because you got this long
yeah.
neck like ET.
um. So yeah, I don't know how to recommend like however you come across it. But I guess we spoiled it for you. So, so I guess we should have said at the beginning like choose your path. So, um, but it's definitely an interesting movie. Glad we watched it because I don't think there was a lot of other stuff in 2013 we could pick from. Because
Not that we would like get a lot of traction
nah,
out of.
because we are like we've had like an exceptional run of movies here where it's like, oh man, because I was like getting ready to like, man, movies in the old day were better, but like we had a run of movies here. It's like, man, these are some of the best movies of all time. So I don't. So.
And everyone else feels that way too. So.
But yeah, just because of how I picked them, because like when I picked like the '70s movies, like it seemed too obvious to just pick like the best movies from the 70s because there's so many good movies in the 70s. So I kind of picked like, hey, what's like the weird, the B movies of the 70s, and like there's they had like the disaster porn movies of that era, which like, oh, there's a ton of these. Like, these were just as successful as like Jaws and The Godfather. But
These are like the Avengers of their day.
yeah.
And if you just leave me to do it, it's like, oh, we're watching the Parallax View, we're watching all the
Yeah.
Presidents, we're watching 7 Days in May. It's like, yeah, we know, Nathan, you're a paranoid schizophrenic internet guy, but that's not what we want to see all the time.
And I can't even remember what I picked for the 80s, but it was a lot of the movies where it's like, man, the 80s had it down like 90 minutes and we're out. And it's like, the very fun movies. I'm not sure if they necessarily like, hey, these are great artistic movies. And the stuff I picked for the 90s was kind of like, well done, but also kind of weird. Like the 90s just had its own vibe for some reason, where it's like some of the 80s hung around and also became a different thing. And then and some of that early 2000 stuff had some really exceptional movies in it. But it was like the late 2000s where we got into the uh, No Children for Men and No Children for Men, Children of Men, and
You combine
yeah.
yeah.
No, I did combine them. The other, what was it? No Country for Old Men. So that's no that
Children of,
No Country for
yeah.
Children of Men. That's what it is. But yeah, we got No Country for Old Men.
An exceptionally bleak movie about drug dealers and have kids in UK.
And then we had like
and the border for some
then
reason.
we had The Dark Knight in there, which is a great movie, and then we had Dread, which we know is a great movie, but the rest of the world wasn't ready for it. So. And
Couldn't handle Dread.
I threw Fast Five in there, which that's like that's an exceptional action movie. So, but that also wasn't a great year for movies. So I don't know. Like 2011 wasn't good. 2013 wasn't good.
Yeah, it only gets worse from here on.
No, we got some good ones coming up. I think
the cultural delusion gets terrifying after like 2017, 2018.
Yeah, well, I threw Fury Road in there, and that's like probably one of the best movies of all time. So we got another banger coming up. So And we got Rogue One coming up, which that's really like that movie. Seemed to be like misconstrued at the time it came out, and now it's kind
Yeah,
of seen as like, oh, might be this might be one of the best Star Wars movies.
I certainly thought so.
Oh yeah. I love the decisions of that. And then now they have the Andor TV show, which seems to be another exceptional Star Wars experience in the middle of not a lot of great Star Wars stuff that's being produced at the moment. So,
Yeah.
I mean, The Mandalorian was great for like the first season, and that's it's fine for the rest of it, but it seemed to have gone downhill in a way. But
Season 1 was
yeah.
awesome. After that, it was like, oh no.
Well, I wouldn't say it's like a disaster after that. It's just kind of like, well, this is more of the same, and some of their where they're going with
Yeah.
it wasn't as enticing as they thought it would be.
After season 1, it became Disney Star Wars,
Yeah.
a clearly defined product. Whereas like the first season was like, oh, they're going in a different direction, and then it really caught on, and they're like, quick, let's dilute it. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, it seemed to like, that's just Disneyfying things where it's like, oh, the Marvel's kind of slowing down, so let's ramp up Star Wars. Like, oops, we screwed that up, so that's also slowing down. What do we have left? So, um, yeah, let me look at the list because I can't remember what we have for next week. Unless you have a guess of what came out in 2014. Oh, Nightcrawler. That's a great movie.
Oh yeah, that's
Oh, right, we got some great runs. Here's our next run of fantastic movies. Nightcrawler, Mad Max Fury Road, Star Wars Rogue One, and Get Out.
yeah. We're gonna be doing fine. Okay, we're gonna. I see some like 4-hour podcasts. Oh no, that would cause marital distress. But at least 2.5.
Yeah, I think for like a lot of modern stuff, I think maybe I'm down a lot of like 2020 stuff, but like anything Denis Villeneuve does, it's genius and well done.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
like I said, he's just the human being I should have been. So it's weird. He does all the same shit I would do in the same way, kind of. But I'm not French Canadian, so it's a little different flair to it. But it's like, God damn it, how does he keep doing the shit I would do?
yeah.
Like when I saw Sicario, I was like, yeah, I would definitely do this. But it makes perfect sense.
Well, I mean, yeah, he gets like Sicario and Arrival, which those are both awesome movies. And then he does
Yeah.
Blade Runner 2049, and you think like, well, that's just a lost cause. Why are you doing this? And then like, it's a great movie. And then he does Dune. You're like, what are you doing? That's just another one lost cause. And it's like, oh, it's a great movie. It's like, you know what, Denis, you do what you want.
Yeah, he's ultimately like, hold my beer. It's like, that'll never be a success. It's like, oh yeah, watch this.
And I know he has like a team of people behind him, but it's hard to steer a $200 million ship and have it come out like artistically good and financially well done.
Those Dune movies alone were insane. The production values, the stuff they came up with. There's a whole like 5-hour story in like everything from like the shield fighting to recreating the world of Dune, for a 21st century audience. Taking a book that is notoriously clunky and hard to read and making it really engaging, taking the concepts from it, which some of them are, it's basically drug addiction and esoteric like religion and Orientalism, and making that into like something that people just want to vibe with on screen. And then of course taking the most beautiful and cool looking actors in the world and casting these movies and not making it ridiculous at the same time. Yeah. That's really hard to do. I'm just talking about Dune.
Yeah.
The first.
Yeah, you can watch about like there's a whole documentary called Jodorowsky or Jodorowsky's Dune, which is basically about like, here's how hard it is to adapt Dune.
Yep. Oh yeah, you're insane if you try.
And you look at it, it's like, and you look at that, it's like, I think this would have been an amazing movie, but it would have been bad.
Yeah.
Which
This would have been the best 70s sci-fi schlock ever done.
yeah.
Like this would have instead of people seeing Rocky Horror Picture over and over and showing up in costumes for showings throughout the 70s and 80s, it would have been Hordowski's like Dune, part 1 through 10 or whatever, however they were going to do it.
And even David Lynch's doing like there's some cool stuff to it, but it just kind of misses. So-
Yeah. David Lynch's Dune that is what you call swinging for the bleachers, but not connecting with the ball in any way.
Yeah.
Man, you threw
You
both
almost
your
knocked it
shoulders
out of the park, but you failed.
almost.
Now you're walking back and the game's over.
Was that a home run? No. What? Hell with you guys. I'm going to go make, French bizarre cinema.
However, sending a probe into space contains a supercut of the scenes from the imperfect collection of the movies that is the Verhoeven Effect. Nathan, what one scene from this movie are we shoving into space?
Well, because of the nature of this movie, we're going to send the opening scene.
Okay.
Because you can sit through that and say, hey, this is cool. I like this. Very Monolith 2001 on the moon vibe to it. You're going to like this movie. If you sit through that and you're like, well, I hate this, then just stop watching it because it's not going to get any better for you from that point on. And it's completely subjective. I'm not one of those guys that's like, if you're smart, you like this movie. It's like, no, you either like it or you don't like it. It's entirely up to you.
Yeah, I wonder how much of a final cut went on the like film festival scene, because I heard a lot of audiences at some of the film festival screenings were like immediately off put by this movie and just like didn't understand it and left. So I wonder.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there was like music and sound design that was missing in the film festival run of this movie, or if it was all there. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I've never been to a film festival. I've always wanted to go to one, but just, I have to make a living. So I don't have a lot of free time. And when I do have free time, I'm like pushing model tanks around like a child, like judge my models. That's what I'm doing.
You can find us at Letterboxd, username VHE. 1 out of 5 stars. What are we giving Under the Skin?
Depending on who you are, it's either going to be a 1 or a 5.
Yeah.
But it's a really polarizing movie. I'm going to tell you, it's not for everyone. For me, it's a 5.
Okay.
But that's just because I appreciate the beauty of the filming, the beauty of the sound design, and just it's like, hey, you want to see a POV of being an alien? Here you go. And and when, like I said, when you listen to the people answer questions, in speaking with Scottish accents to her, you really do feel like an alien. You're like, where is these people are speaking a foreign language? What's going on? So, yeah. For me, it's a 5.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, it's a very specific sci-fi movie, but it's not. But like that's why it works for what it's doing. It's not trying to it's not a Spielberg movie. It's not trying to entertain you. It's trying to
It's not going to be
create an experience, which
it's not going to be a home run for everyone. But like I said, whiskey steadily consumed over 90 minutes. It for some reason it helps.
But if you have to trick people into watching it, just tell them like it's Scarlett Johansson's naked in it. So.
Was she naked in this?
Yes, like all the time.
Oh, I don't know. I have a Scarlett Johansson mental block, or I can't appreciate
she's naked in the first scene she's in, where she's taking the clothes off the lady.
See, but what I'm vectored in on is the White Room, which is very Stanley Kubrick-esque. It's very like Clockwork Orange / 2001, and the woman who's crying, her clothes. But see, okay, here's the thing. Here's why I don't really get into the Scarlett Johansson being super attractive or naked in this movie, because in my mind, I always thought this is a machine from the beginning. Yeah. So anytime I see her naked, it's like, well, that's like seeing a real doll naked. Like that is for me because it's not real.
See, Nathan got absorbed in the movie. It's like
yeah, I did. I did. I got so absorbed I forgot that like Scarlett Johansson is this like thin woman with triple D's or something. I totally forgot about it. I was so into like she's just a robot from another planet. This is just the Mars Explorer, or what's it called, the Mars
Rover.
Curiosity or what?
Curiosity and.
It's just the Curiosity rover in a supper.
You can find us at verhoeffect.com. There we have listener support. You can support us on a monthly stipend on $9.99, $4.99, or 99 cents. Canceling time. You can rate our podcast. Rate our podcast whatever you want, but the only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. So remember, you control the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't control you. So just tip the scales to us and give us a 5-star rating for no reason.
Yeah, don't let self-replicating AIs from other planets control you. Be honest in your thoughts.
Don't let them implode your meat into a tray of to a conveyor belt.
Don't make the dead internet a reality.
You can find us on Twitter at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us on Blue Sky Social at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us on Facebook, Verhoeven Effect, and you can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory. You can watch both this and that show live and unedited. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Colin.